How's it going, everyone? Welcome to Early Look, the show where I take a look at an upcoming notable fight. And on today's edition, we're going to take a look at the 5-round main event in the lightweight division taking place June 25th, UFC Fight Night. It's going to be Arman Tsarukyan taking on Mateusz Gamrot. But before I get into this and give my in-depth preview and pick, make sure you hit that like button, hit the subscribe button, and hit that notification bell. I'm putting content on here every single day. I also have a bunch of other Early Look videos. I've tried to do these at least once a week. The other one I have is actually for this card. If you haven't seen it yet, it's Neil Magny and Shavkat Rakhmonov. Make sure you check that out as well. I'm trying to do these every week. I know you guys like it, and this was a fight actually that I'm going to be breaking down today that a lot of you requested. So happy to be breaking down this fight here for you right now. And at the end of the video, if you agree, disagree, let's talk about this fight respectfully, of course, but I'm always curious to hear other people's opinions on big fights like this one. And I absolutely love this matchup, and let's dig into it right now. Let's get into it. Okay, so there we go. Like I said, this is going to be part of the UFC Fight Night card June 25th, so it will be a 5-round main event. I know some people have, I'm not going to mention any names, some people talking about how maybe this isn't main event worthy. This is exactly what a main event should be on a Fight Night card. A glimpse into the future of two contenders. I really believe this fight, we will see the winner of this fight, or it could be both fighters. I think they will someday fight for a title. I really feel that way. I think we got two really solid prospects in the weight class, or at the very least, they'll be in the contender spot. I think these are two really high-level lightweights. Two guys that aren't, they're not household names, but they're guys that really, I shouldn't even say that, because they are household names internationally. Go look at the numbers. Gamrot, Tsarukyan, both guys have huge fan bases. Trust me, this is a perfect main event, in my opinion, for a Fight Night card. Anyways, enough of that. Let's dig into the fight. Let's dig into the stats and everything else. So let's start first with Arman Tsarukyan. If you missed it, I did an interview with Arman leading into this fight. You can find it on my UFC interviews playlist. Really good guy. But yeah, we'll start with him. 18-2 record, as you can see there. 18-2 record. He is 25 years old. He's going to be 26 in October. He's 5'7" with a 72.5 inch reach. He's 6 years younger and will have a 2.5 inch reach advantage over Gamrot in this fight. So keep that in mind. And he is currently the number 11th ranked lightweight in the division right now. Some other sort of stats here with Tsarukyan. He is Master of Sport in MMA and Master of Sport in Wrestling. That's something that I know people like to mention. He's going to be training in Las Vegas for this camp. That's, again, you can find that all out in the interview. But, he had trained at American Top Team in the past. Now, I did ask him about ATT because Gamrot's trained there as well, too. They have not trained together, so just a little tidbit there. Some people may be wondering that. They've never trained together. But yeah, he was training in Las Vegas for this camp because I think he was hoping to get a fight a little bit sooner than what he ended up getting. So he was just sort of on standby. That's why he decided to do his camp in Vegas as opposed to Florida. But he said in the interview that he does plan to go train at American Top Team after this camp as well. So he hasn't left ATT. He's just doing the camp here in Vegas. He's got a fight of the night, of course, with Islam Makhachev. He got a bonus in that fight. And he's got 2 performance of the night bonuses over Christos Giagos and Joel Alvarez as well. So yeah, a lot already. He's made a lot of noise already in such a short UFC tenure. Now, if we look at the bottom here, Arman Tsarukyan, like a lot of fighters when we do these breakdowns, did not, well, he had some amateur fights. So here's where things are a little bit muddled with his amateur debut. You can see here, it says his amateur debut was October of 2015. It also says his pro debut was September of 2015. I'm not sure why that is. Maybe some stuff got mixed up there, but either way, it does appear that he's had some amateur fights. But either way, we can at least talk about the fact that it looks like his career started in 2015. We can at least talk about that, right? So he's been around since 2015. He didn't make his UFC debut until April of 2019. And how about this? Who does he have to fight in his UFC debut? He has to fight Islam Makhachev, who many believe will be the next lightweight champion. So tall task there for his debut. So Tsarukyan is 5-1 in the UFC. He's got two stoppage victories. Some notable wins that he has. Joel Alvarez, very good win. That was another fight kind of like this one where they're trying to figure out who the better prospect is. Clearly that was Arman in that fight. He looked great in that matchup. And then his only notable loss is Islam Makhachev, which again, talked about his accolades. I mean, we go on about what Islam's done. That's a really interesting fight. And also notable as well because that was a 3-round fight, and he went the distance with Islam. Islam's been finishing a lot of guys, so I think the fact that it went the distance, I think that looks good for Arman, especially with that being on short notice. Now, Arman has not had a lot of layoffs in his career. I was looking back at how often he's been active. You can see here the longest layoff he's had is just one. It was the Olivier Aubin-Mercier fight to the Davy Ramos fight. That was a 357-day layoff. So pretty big layoff there, more than a year. If you look here, it says that he was supposed to fight on this card and it was canceled due to COVID. So I think it was a combination of COVID and also some visa issues. But He got all that sorted out, and he's been pretty active since then. 2 fights last year. He's going to have 2 already this year. He might even get a 3rd fight in this year. So activity not really an issue for Arman Tsarukyan. The other thing with Arman is that he hasn't really been injured. If you look at it here, he's been pretty healthy, pretty consistent in a lot of his fights. No USADA issues, nothing like that. He's been pretty clear cut. And the other thing as well is, you do see a couple decision wins here, including Olivier Aubin-Mercier, Ramos, Frivola, Islam Makhachev. No fights that were like controversial or anything. So, the Makhachev fight, most people felt like Makhachev won that, and his wins as well, he clearly won those fights too. So that's Arman Tsarukyan. There's not a ton to talk about because he hasn't had a ton, that he hasn't done a ton in the UFC so far other than just the 6 fights, but really exciting guy to watch. You can see there on the photo, Tiger Muay Thai, he's trained there as well. So he's been around as far as a lot of training and a lot of variety in his camp. So yeah, really exciting. And again, just 25 years old. Like I said, this is a good glimpse into the future of the lightweight division. Okay, so that's what Arman Tsarukyan. Let's talk about Mateusz Gamrot, another guy who's got a huge fan base and is really, really interesting here. So you look at it there, Mateusz Gamrot, 21 record. He's got 7 knockouts, 5 submissions, and 8 decisions. He's the number 12th ranked lightweight in the division right now. He's 31 years old. He'll be 32 in December. He's 5'10" with a 70.5-inch reach. So he's going to have a 3-inch height advantage in this fight. But like I mentioned, Tsarukyan's going to be younger, and he's going to also have a reach advantage in this fight. Now, Gamrot is also a BJJ black belt, and the key thing here, and this is one thing to keep in mind, he is not only the former KSW lightweight champion, he's also the former KSW featherweight champion. Those are really good accolades to have. KSW, one of the best promotions in the world. You see the likes of, Jan Blachowicz, so many other names come out of that promotion and find success. So that's a good promotion to have fought for. So that's a big feather in his cap. And I remember when he signed with UFC, a lot of hype, a lot of expectation here. So that's why this fight is so awesome, because Arman, he's coming from, where he used to fight. And now you've got a guy in Gamrot. It's like almost like a cool cross promotional fight in a way, where you've got a KSW guy taking on a guy in Arman who's, fought overseas as well. So really fun fight there. You can see here, Mateusz did not have a amateur debut. He had his pro debut back in February of 2012. So again, Arman 2015, Gamrot 2012. A little bit, and obviously the age gap too. So that would explain why Mateusz has fought a little bit earlier than Arman has. He made his UFC debut back in October of 2020, and that was against Guram, a fight that he ended up losing by split decision. We'll talk about that in a second here. But yeah, that's, again, tough debut. Guram's another guy in that weight class I think you're going to be talking about soon as a potential contender. A lot of upside there for him too. Some notable wins here for Gamrot. Diego Ferreira, who's ranked at the time. That was his last fight. He got a win there. Working backwards, Jeremy Stephens. Obviously, Stephens is pretty much a household name. We know all about Jeremy Stephens and what he's been able to do. And Scott Holtzman was just a highlight reel finish. Holtzman, I believe, retired, or at least he's nearing the end of his career right now. So can't take too much away from that. But every single one of his fights in the UFC has been exciting. Even the decision loss, it was still an exciting fight. And that's one thing that he's sort of known for, is just being really exciting there. You can see as well, 3-1 in the UFC, 3 stoppage victories. So a lot to like here about Mateusz Gamrot in this fight. And then even outside of that, you look at some of the names that he's fought over the years, Norman Park, UFC vet, the list goes on. This is a guy that has just, again, looked very impressive, and a lot of finishes overall in his career. Like I mentioned, 7 knockouts, 5 submissions, and 8 decisions in his career. So I mentioned the Guram fight. I did go back and check that out, and I always go to MMA Decisions and look how people scored that fight. So that was on the UFC on ESPN, the Korean Zombie and Brian Ortega card back in October of 2020. 14 media members scored the fight for Guram in that fight. So he obviously won, but I did notice 3 media members scoring the fight for Gamrot. So while he did lose, some media members did feel like he did enough to get the fight done. I know this is a bit of a shorter breakdown than usual, because again, there's not a ton to talk about between both guys as far as bodies of work. They're up and comers, so you're going to have that with this fight. But we don't have any odds yet on this fight. If I had to guess, I would think, I don't know. It's kind of interesting to see who will be the favorite here. Just looking on Tapology as far as who people are picking, you look at it here. Tsarukyan's the favorite. Most people are picking Tsarukyan. I have a feeling he's going to be the favorite. I think he'll be just a slight favorite here, if I had to guess. Maybe like a -150 around there. Maybe he's higher, but I think because he fought Islam and went the distance, people are going to hold that as like a positive thing, right? And you just look at him beating Joel Alvarez in his last fight, that's also going to probably lead to him being a favorite here. But that's kind of how I see this fight too. Like, I think this is a coin flip fight. Like, again, we see this every now and then. We see sort of a kind of like Islam and Arman, where it's like you see two up and comers face off earlier in their career, and you know that both are going to go on to bigger, better things, regardless of who wins or loses that fight. I see that this sort of being the same thing. So, like I mentioned it there. So you've got Gamrot, who's got 7 knockouts, 5 submissions, very good. I forgot to mention Tsarukyan's got 7 knockouts and 5 submissions himself. So both these guys extremely well rounded as far as their skill set goes. Both going to be having their first main event in the UFC, 5 rounds. So that's where we're really going to get an idea of where these guys both belong. But who's going to get this done? It's tough. Gamrot, I don't know where he's training this camp. I did try and look up. It doesn't look like he's at an ATT, so he's probably training back home, which, you know, say what you want. But who do I think is going to win? Suspense, drum roll, please. I'm going to go Arman Tsarukyan. Now, here's why. In a fight this close, you got to look at little things in the fight. Now, Gamrot, like I said, a little bit taller, but Tsarukyan's going to have the reach advantage. Gamrot's a little bit older here. So, I mean, you can almost argue that what you see with Gamrot is a finished product. I feel like with Arman, every fight you're seeing a new fighter. You're seeing someone that's evolving bit by bit. And I know, look, Gamrot's not, shouldn't say he's a finished product, but you're seeing close to what you're seeing as far as Gamrot's prime. With Tsarukyan, I don't think he's hit his prime yet at 25. I think every fight you're going to see more and more improvements. So in some ways, you're almost guessing as to how much improved Arman's been. And I think we're going to see that even more and more. I think his win over Joel Alvarez is so impressive. Like Alvarez, if you look at what he did to Thiago Moises the fight before that, that to me just says that he belongs, because Alvarez is not an easy out for anyone. Alvarez is a big guy for the weight class. I think we can take a lot away from that win. Now, conversely, with Gamrot, he did finish Diego Ferreira. I think Ferreira is, you know, still a top-ranked opponent. That's a good win. But you could almost argue with Ferreira's age, he's a bit on the decline. You know, that's one thing that you can say with Gamrot as far as level of opposition. Some of his opponents have kind of, you know, are guys that are a bit older here. Diego Ferreira, 37. Jeremy Stevens, 36. Scott Holtzman, how old's he now? He's 38. So there you go. So that's one thing we can kind of take away from, is that while Gamrot's been getting these wins, the guys he's beating are a little bit older, whereas Tsarukyan, he's beating guys that are a little bit younger and, you know, relatively still good. The Davey Ramos win, I think, was great too. I didn't mention that as a notable win, but I still think that was good because he was 10-3 at the time. So how do I think Arman's going to win this fight? Well, if you look at Gamrot, and you look at his career, he is never been finished. Now, that can happen in this fight with it being 5 rounds. I certainly think that's the case here, but you don't get the indication with a guy that's this well-rounded that he's going to get finished early in this fight. But saying that, has he been hit by a guy like Arman? It's tough to say. I tend to think we'll see a decision here. I think we're going to see one of those like fight of the night, all out wars. But I think what's going to happen in this fight is I think Arman's going to keep this on the feet. And I think he's going to slowly, be able to pick apart Gamrot as the fight's going on, just slightly. It's going to be a close fight. I could see this fight being like a split decision, or a fight being like, you know, a decision win for Tsarukyan, but it's going to be one of those, maybe not controversial, but close. One of those fights where I don't think there is a loser in the fight. That's how I see this one playing out. I think when you got guys that are at this high level, that's likely the outcome. Now, could this be a fight where maybe Gamrot comes out of his shell and really impresses and maybe finishes Tsarukyan? Absolutely. You could say the same thing for Tsarukyan. Maybe he comes out and gets a finish and looks super impressive in this one. That could happen here too. Maybe this is the performance that really breaks him through and we fast track him towards a title shot. That could happen. I mean, we've seen fights like that where you think a fight's going to be close and it ends up one guy being the hammer and the other guy being the nail. But I think the safe bet here is Arman by decision. I think he gets it done. I think when the odds come out, you will see the odds being really close. And I think that's where you can maybe get some wiggle room, is the over in this fight. There's no reason to think that Gamrot is going to get finished in this fight any time early. And same thing with Arman. I mean, Arman's got a good striking defense. He's got good stand-up, good ground game. I think most likely Arman Tsarukyan wins the decision. Now, the implications for this fight are huge. I'll talk about that quickly. I think the winner of this fight is going to get a top 5 opponent. Typically, when the UFC puts a main event together like this one, it's 5 rounds. They do hold a lot of weight in that. So I think, again, the winner, and I think even the loser in this fight, unless one of these guys drops an egg, I don't think that's going to happen. But I think what you're going to see here is the future of the lightweight division. And I think both of these guys you're going to see fighting for potentially a belt, or at least be contenders at some point. So there we go. So I want to know what you guys think in the comment section below. Who are you favoring in this fight? Again, super close fight. Like, I'm expecting this one to be potentially a fight of the year here between these two guys. And don't listen to other people when they say this isn't main event worthy. It's absolutely main event worthy for a fight night card. Not a pay-per-view, but a fight night card for sure. This is the exact type of fight the UFC should be putting together. 2 up-and-comers trying to prove themselves in the division. And one thing I didn't even mention here, the reason this fight is happening, I'm pretty sure, is because a lot of lightweights don't want to fight these guys, right? Like they're not like huge names in terms of like, you know, household names. And they're super dangerous. And that's a tough combination for both these guys, because a lot of guys don't want to, you know, go in and take those types of fights. So Really excited for this one. Again, Arman Tsarukyan by decision is going to be my pick. Let me know what you think in the comments. Again, more than happy to discuss these fights with you guys, as long as you're cool about it. Maybe I made a mistake here. Maybe there's some things you guys disagree with me here. Let's respectfully talk about these fights. I love talking fights, but I love even more when there's not all these troll comments and stuff. So that's all I'm asking from you guys. If you guys want to just have a discussion about this, we can certainly do that. Again, it's going to be taking place at the UFC Apex, June 25th, so smaller cage. I think both guys have knockout power, so I really don't think that favors either guy. Both guys are going to be throwing leather. And yeah, I think, again, we could see a decision here, even with it being a smaller cage. I think that both guys are so tough that I don't see either one going down. So there you go. That's my pick. Let me know what you think in the comments. Hit that like button, hit the subscribe button, and hit that notification bell so you don't miss any notifications here on this channel. My name is James Lynch. Lastly, just want to mention if there's any other fights you guys want me to preview, more than happy to do it. I always sort of take your guys' feedback and, because I'm going to cover, obviously, the big title fights and a lot of the main events that are coming up. But there's some other fights like the Neil Magny and Shavkat Rakhmonov fight. That's a fight where, pretty interesting fight in the division, not a headliner fight, but more than happy to break that fight down. So let me know in the comments if there's any other fights you guys want me to preview over the next couple weeks that are obviously coming up. And always make sure to tune into my preview shows every Monday where I preview the upcoming UFC card. Okay, everyone, thanks so much for watching. I'll see you guys soon, and really appreciate you taking the time to check this out.